Good morning, friends. This Sunday, as we continue together in a process of renewing our roots as a congregation, the season of reconnecting with who and why we are, I'm going to invite you to think with me about one of the core tenets of Christianity, one of the core tenets of the Christian spiritual path. Here's how the author of First John describes it in chapter 4 of his letter, verses 11 through 16. Beloved, since God loved us so much, we also ought to love one another. While no one has ever seen God, if we love one another, then God lives in us, and God's love is perfected in us. By this we know that we abide in God and God in us, because God gives us the Spirit. We have seen and do testify that the Creator of the world has sent the Redeemer of the world. God abides in those who testify that Jesus is the Son, and those who testify abide in God. So we have known and believed the love that God has for us. God is love. And those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. Friends, in our time together last week, we considered some of the root causes of conflict. We talked about church coffee hours and household chores and politics. Today, as we prepare to think about love, I want to start with a rather specific set of statistics. Things more likely to kill you than a shark. Vending machines. Vending machines are more likely to kill you than a shark is. Every time you jiggle one of those big metal boxes trying to shake loose your stray package of Oreos, know that between 3 and 5 people are crushed to death under the weight of a vending machine every year. Champagne corks. Champagne corks are more likely to kill you than a shark is. Flying through the air at a rate of up to 50 miles per hour, champagne corks can cause fatal damage to a human body. Between those wayward corks and the people who insist on opening champagne bottles with a sword, risking fatal wounds to themselves and others, upwards of 24 people die each year from champagne cork-related injuries. Meanwhile, despite how much we hear about fatal shark attacks, only between 1 and 6 people actually die from them each year. Statistics show that on average, vending machines and champagne corks are far more fatal. But what's even more fatal than these, though, is something that many of us do all the time. Every day, maybe, in some cases, perhaps even multiple times a day. Taking a selfie. Between 2008 and 2021, almost 400 people died from selfie-related injuries. Some of the most common reasons include falls off of cliffs, tumbles onto train tracks, drowning, and animal attacks, most commonly bears and big cats. Far from being simply fun, selfies are downright dangerous. More deadly even than shark attacks. The most obvious culprit for all these deaths would seem to be the cell phone itself. It's because cell phones have cameras on them, in some cases highly sophisticated cameras. That's what's caused all these deadly selfie-related deaths, you might think. Well, in fact, cell phones with cameras were first mass-produced in the year 2000. A full 8 years before the rise in selfie-related deaths. The more likely culprit is a feature of the internet that came on the scene in October of 2007, the like button. A company called FriendFeed, a social media aggregator that Facebook eventually acquired, popularized the use of the like button. It allowed users to get instant feedback about what other people thought of their posts, and also advertisers could much more easily track what people might want to buy. Before long, like buttons were everywhere, on every single social media platform, from YouTube to LinkedIn to Twitter. Like buttons were on blogs and search engines and all kinds of websites. Like buttons totally changed the internet. Yes, certainly, because advertisers saw the incredible value of them, but even more so, it was because we, all of us internet users, keep on using them. The like button is a way for us to show support to a friend or a family member as they post pictures of their new hobby or their new baby. They let us connect with someone in a low-stakes way, helping a new relationship grow or helping a withered relationship continue to limp along. Like buttons help us feel as if we've taken action on a political issue we care about. Giving likes to someone or something is a seemingly harmless way to offer a little affirmation in a beautifully non-committed fashion. Receiving likes, on the other hand, well, that's a whole other story. As we get likes on things we've posted, the pleasure centers of our brains fire up. Dopamine gets released and endorphins suffuse our bloodstream. Getting likes brings us energy, confidence, and joy. As the number of likes increases, so too does our feeling of inclusion and celebration and popularity. And so, like a drug, some of us can get addicted to that feedback and decide to go to greater and greater lengths to get a hit. We post more and more, doing wilder or cuter or sexier or funnier or more dangerous things to get a response. We start tracking those likes and paying attention to the numbers of friends or followers that we have. Now, maybe you're thinking to yourself, these silly millennials and Gen Zers, I would never pose with an alligator just for a couple of likes. Many of us here wouldn't, I suspect. But if you've ever posted something on social media, you know the difference you feel when your picture gets 10 or 20 reactions rather than 0. You know the rush that follows a new friend request or a new share or a new positive interaction on the web. It's how we're designed. That kind of feedback thrills social animals like us. It's a way, even subconsciously, of convincing us that we matter. The like button, in other words, has tricked us into thinking that we can finally visualize and quantify something that for most of human history has been basically invisible: love. You see, regardless of age or generation, many of us were taught or convinced that love is synonymous with approval. We begin with seeking our caregiver's approval. Hey, look at my cartwheel, or look at my drawing, or look at my grades, or see how tall I've gotten, we say. Then we move to wanting our friends' and peers' approval, so we think much harder about our clothes, or our music, or our hobbies. Then we want our coworkers' approval, or our boss's approval, or our society's approval. Or perhaps we want the approval of the people who've joined us in rejecting approval altogether. Think punk, think goth, think emo subcultures. All along the way, love, the thing we really want, and approval, the thing that's easier to understand, get twisted into the same thing. Interestingly, the word approve is rooted in the same Latin verb that gives us the word proof. In other words, approval, for many of us, ends up acting as evidence that we matter, are liked, are loved. And so, when Friend Feed, and then Facebook, and then Instagram, and then all the blogs and reviewing platforms and so on show us how liked we are or how liked someone else is, that approval feels like evidence, proof of value, of power, of a certain kind of so-called love. Love in the Christian tradition, however, isn't only a feeling. Love in the Christian tradition isn't even only a practice. Love in this tradition is the path itself, loves the whole thing that we're here to talk about and learn about and figure out together. This is why so much of the New Testament isn't just telling us to love, it's telling us what love actually is. Patient, kind, not envious, neither boastful nor proud. As the Apostle Paul tells us in First Corinthians, love is about selflessness. It is a choice oriented around our willingness to feel with and sometimes suffer for others, as Jesus demonstrates and teaches. When the author of First John writes to tell us about the relationship between God and love, he's not just talking about a feeling. Love doesn't teach us about God just because of how it feels. Love teaches us about God because, like God, as First John proclaims, love, real love, is invisible. Like God, no one can see it. You have to trust it. You have to have faith in it because there's no lasting proof for it. In fact, in most cases, when people demand proof for love, they're usually up to something that has nothing to do with love. When folks want proof of love, very often they actually want something else entirely. They want certainty. Very often they want power. They want you to give over some of your agency or some of your money or some of your ability to think for yourself as you prove just how much you really care for them. When people want proof of your love, they often actually want control. Control of your body, control of your loyalty, control of your votes. They want to limit your ability to live outside of their desires. Proving love, then, can be a means of manipulation, abuse, or, in the more extreme cases, tyranny. Learning what real love is, then, real love, this awesome, invisible reality that brings forth patience and kindness and selflessness, this can save us. This love becomes for us an engine of energy, a source of power, a wellspring of the possible that enables us to be free. Learning invisible love connects us with the living God no one can see. This kind of love and the Christian kind of God are both felt but not proven, trusted but not tested, experienced but not explained, shared and not hoarded, mutual rather than monopolized, mysterious rather than made clear. Because they share so much, so deeply in common, loving each other in this way makes God live and abide and blossom within us. This is what's at stake in the Christian spiritual journey, friends. Learning how to actually love each other beyond proof, beyond measure, beyond self. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't share hugs as a sign of our love. It doesn't mean that we don't smile at each other or share words of affection or write poems of praise or sing songs of romantic intoxication or celebrate the intimacy of family. Yes, 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 we do all of that. But we do it because it just happens. It just flows. It just grows. We take time to nurture invisible love, and then it spills over into the visible field. It just does if we let it. However, when we start demanding hugs, demanding affection, demanding proof, that's when we get into trouble. When we start consciously seeking out the words we want and the praise we want and the approval and the likes and the certainty and the control, well then, again, we're not really looking for love anymore. We're looking for proof that we matter, and the truth is, there'll never be enough. There'll never be enough proof because the hole that we're trying to fill is as bottomless as our very being, is as timeless as our human core. That hole can only be filled with something equally limitless. something equally timeless, something some of us call God. That patient, kind, hopeful, selfless, actually always everywhere love. And so, here's the good news, friends. As we start living with faith in the invisible God that blossoms in invisible love, then we're less in need of visible proof. As we walk this journey toward real love, all new kinds of living become available to us. We're less in need of approval and all of its distractions. We're less in need of winning arguments or being right all the time. We're less in need of showing the world how big we are or how important we are or how much stuff we have. Not only, then, will we be less likely to die while taking a photo with a grizzly bear, we'll also be more willing to do things that are right, even if they aren't popular. Like inviting the people that nobody else wants into our church. Like facing the awkwardness of greeting a stranger in worship just to share a teeny sign of welcome. Like making a hard decision at work because you know you must. Like revealing the truth of who you are even if people don't approve. Like recognizing that behind their badges and their uniforms, police are still people too. Like speaking up, like marching on, like taking risks, like loving enemies and sharing resources and letting go of habits that no longer serve you. This is what's on offer here, friends. Because, as First John makes clear in the verses right after the ones in your bulletin, the opposite of real love isn't hate. The opposite of real love is fear. And because every pair of opposites is intimately connected along this journey toward the love called God, we will inevitably encounter that which terrifies us. The people, the problems, the pain that terrifies us. And so, we must ask ourselves, First Congo, what's holding me back from real love? What are you afraid of? What makes you anxious as you think about your own life? Who are you worried about disappointing? Whose approval do you crave? What keeps you from living into your own deepest dream? If you knew that the God no one can see was endlessly, lovingly, always in your corner, what might you do? How might you live? These are dangerous questions. They're dangerous questions because they threaten to upend our entire world. But that's always what freedom does, isn't it? Change everything. That's why an empire crucified a low-wealth carpenter from Palestine, because he was teaching people what real love was. Those in power knew then, just as they know now, that when people feel truly loved, well, we can't be scared into submission. When people feel truly loved, we can't be seduced into consumption. When people feel truly loved, we can't be lured in with a like button. In real love, we become truly free, wholly alive in the invisible power of an invisible God, a freedom that begins with the choice to try our level best to love the broken, beautiful people all around us, starting very often with ourselves. Are you ready? May it be so, and amen.